All right, everybody, welcome back to Unscripted from my Jerseys of Hope studios here in Hilliard, Ohio. This is a very exciting day. We get to meet the woman behind the man. And so, Jenna, do you want to introduce yourself really quick and we'll go from there?
Hi, everybody. I am Jenna Miracle, married to the one and only Gary Miracle. Nice to see you today.
It is nice to see you. I was just thinking about it. I think the last time we saw each other, it's much quieter at your house right
Yeah,
now
yeah.
than the last time I was there. And we were merging. So we're going to get into that today. We're going to get into, you know, life now, but let's start BG. Let's start before Gary.
Okay.
Can we do that?
Was there ever a thing before Gary?
All right, let's start BG. I just want the audience to know you and get to know you. So let's start life before Gary. Before Gary, if we met you, just tell us about you.
Um, that's a loaded question.
We got plenty of time.
We got plenty of time. Before Gary, ugh, oh, we might have to start this whole thing over because that is too broad of a question for me, Aaron.
So,
Um,
so you live in Florida. Did you grow up in Florida? Let's start there.
Thank you. Yes, I grew up in South Florida. Um, I was born in Coral Springs, Fort Lauderdale area.
Have you
I,
ever left Florida?
yeah, a couple of times.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, I did. When I was, um, I think I was about 13 years old. At first, I lived in Virginia Beach for a little bit. And then around 14, I was in Las Vegas
Oh my.
for a little bit. And then, but I always say that Florida has this invisible magnetic force that always drew me back.
So you enjoy being in Florida?
I do. I think I always kind of say there's salt water in my veins, even though I'm not a big beach person, but there's something about being next to the beach that it just is a part of you when you're from here.
That's my next question was going to be, are you like Salt Life Beach, like go to the beach all the time, or you just like being near the ocean?
There's again, yeah, there's something about, I think probably my entire life, I could probably count how many times I've gone to the beach. I'm not a super beach person.
Yeah.
I would take a lake in the mountains over the beach any day, but again, I don't know. There's something about the accessibility to it that
So so you've been in Florida your whole life. You and Gary knew of one another. Is
yeah,
that correct?
we knew of each other.
You knew of each other, and that's
Yeah,
because you have children that are now brothers and sisters, well, stepbrothers and sisters, but they're the same age, correct?
correct. But prior to, yes, because I used to homeschool and his kids were homeschooled. So we kind of ran in the same homeschool co-op when I first moved to the Rockledge area. So again, I knew of the Miracles, but wasn't friends with the Miracles.
And what was your career life like? Just what did you do prior to meeting Gary?
I was working as a paraprofessional resource specialist over at the kids' school that they attended.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then one day you meet Gary, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
and there's things we're leaving out at the moment, but
Yeah.
if we want to get into those, we can
Okay.
later. But for now, you meet Gary, and both of you were going through transitions in your life. And
Yeah.
so, take us back to the day.
Um, Again, I because how to say this, I knew what was happening with him. I was following, like kind of everybody else on social media, what had happened and his story. Um, I was connected that way, just following him that way. Again, at the school that I worked at, his children attended there with my children. A couple of our kids too were in the same classes together. So again, it's such a big story. I feel like you'd be under a rock if you didn't hear about it. And I was following it and praying for him. But again, other than that, I didn't have connection to Gary, but that's how I knew of him.
And so when did you officially meet or speak for the first time?
So officially we spoke for the first time. It was a Facebook post, actually. I had seen what Gary was doing with his life as far as being a public speaker and spreading his message of hope and grace and all those things. And I happened to work at Calvary Chapel, Fort Lauderdale for many, many years. And there was a pastor on staff. His name's Pastor Joel Sonnenberg. And he was a burned victim at 2 years old from head to toe, unrecognizable. And this man's charisma and spirit was so motivational, so powerful. So when I saw what Gary was doing, it just reminded me of that. So I just kind of passed him on a little clip of him and just saying, I just believe in what you're doing and I think it's awesome. Gary gets a lot of those messages, right?
Yeah, he does.
He's he's so inspiring. So he gets a lot of those messages. So I was one of them to send it to him. And he just said, thank you. And that was it. Like there was nothing else to it at that point. And so we didn't really speak until he sent me a hi emoji months later, the infamous hi emoji.
Right.
He was trying to get to know me.
Well, before, and I don't want, I mean, I love Gary, as everybody knows.
Yeah.
But I want to hear from you. So I want your story as much as Gary's, because we're going to talk a lot about things that are coming up for him as well. So you are an accomplished singer, correct?
I mean, if you think being a karaoke hostess at one point in my life is accomplished, then yes, I am.
Absolutely.
Actually, Aaron, we have this in common. I wanted to say this to you. We have this in common. I always am seeing your social media posts on Facebook and you're always putting songs and lyrics of songs. And I speak the same language as you. I always tell people that if I had a first language, it would be music.
Right.
Think in song. I can relate everything. I have a soundtrack for my life. So every moment has a song that I can put with whatever my life has been. Very cinematic.
It catalogs your life, right? You know what I mean? Like we could be sitting in a restaurant and as soon as I hear something, I am immediately back to where I was when that song, like you said, it defines. So I appreciate that. It's a superhero it's a superhero quality, I believe. Right? It's a spiritual gift.
I used to call it, I would call them Ally McBeal moments. I don't know if you ever watched that show. Where like I'm in a moment and I'm breaking out in a musical in the back of my mind. Like I'm in that moment. There was a song and a dance and it's a whole thing.
So give me 5 songs that take you to a certain point. I'll put you on the spot.
Do you want me to be super spiritual about this, or
you can do whatever you want? Because most of them, I have New Edition, OMD, Breathe, a lot of '80s groups. I can tell you specific things with those bands. So I'll give me 5 moments in your life and the song that goes with it.
Okay.
This is not rehearsed. Welcome to Unscripted.
So many. I go through the Rolodex. I have too many. It's like, I mean,
the jukebox.
When I was a child. I loved opera. So I grew up, it was different. I didn't watch Sesame Street. So I couldn't give you the actual song, but I grew up watching Julia Childs and listening to opera. I don't know. So I got to see Pavarotti when I was 21 years old. So that was pretty cool. So opera was a big thing for me as a child. But then let's fast forward to my teenage angsty years. And I don't know if it's appropriate.
That's fine.
Alanis Morissette was very
so good.
Was very therapeutic for me. I want to say that I think most of my vocabulary actually came from her music too, because she used big words,
Big words, yeah.
Like masochistic. I learned what that meant. Through her songs. I'm not like naming actual songs. Sorry.
It's fine. It's a family show.
Yeah. I'm keeping this friendly here for the kids. But I will say, though, a very cool moment for me was, given that I didn't grow up a Christian. Okay. So I was listening to all the things. But there was this one moment I was driving in the car with my mom, and a Jenny Owens song came on.
Mm.
If you
If
want
you
me,
ask me to,
if you ask me,
yes.
yes.
Whichever. Yes.
Yeah, that one.
Love it.
That one. If you ask me to. And when that song came on, I looked at my mom and I said, I'm gonna sing Christian music one day.
Mm.
And I just knew it. And my mom was like, okay, Jen. Like it wasn't, again, I didn't grow up in church. I grew up, actually, the only thing I was exposed to was actually Scientology, which is a whole nother story.
Wow.
Um, so it was a strange moment, but it was, now looking back, it was almost like a prophetic moment for me. Like I felt like God was, pursuing me in that moment. So that's a big one for me. And just right now, I'm currently gratitude.
So
Grat-
good.
Gratitude. I'm trying to live it. I'm trying to be it.
Yeah.
Especially the line from his song, "Come on, my soul, don't get shy on me."
Mm-hmm.
There's a lion inside, and God is like trying to get me to be that right now.
Yeah.
Even doing something like this right now is taking courage for me.
It's so funny because, so again, this is, I think, how we are very connected. I didn't even know that until about 5 minutes ago. But opera, Heather and I's, the very first, really the reason we started dating in the first place is we went to see the Phantom of the Opera.
Really?
Yeah. So I used to work in a pizza place before we got married. I worked in this, it was Uno Pizzeria, and because I was trying to make cash at night, so it was like a side hobby. And there was these girls that worked there, and Alanis Morissette's CD, Jagged Little Pill, was
Yes.
out, and they played it every stinking night because they had
Okay.
control of the jukebox. And so there you go. Like I could, like you
What?
said, like you hear these names, you hear these songs. Ginny Owens, the most amazing thing to me the first time I heard that song, I mean, it'll break you down. It's just such a beautiful song. But I didn't realize she was blind. And
Yeah.
so I think it's Blind, right? Isn't
Yes, she's
she?
blind. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't think a lot of people know that. And when
Right.
you go back and listen to that song through the lens of, it's powerful enough for
Yeah.
just anyone to sing, let alone someone who's blind.
Yeah.
Incredible. So yeah, we have that in common. It's just,
That's crazy.
it's useless knowledge that will get me nowhere in life. But
But
I don't,
but it connects, right? It works.
that's right.
It connects. It does form you, I think,
Yeah.
when you get it, when your music is like your life, and it is for me.
The very fact that you and I are on this Zoom right now
Yeah.
happened because of a song.
Right.
I mean, think about that.
Look at that. You're that
Right?
is, look at that. Yeah, I see the connection.
So shout out Mercy Me,
Yeah.
because if it wasn't for Say I Won't, I wouldn't have emailed Gary, and you and I probably wouldn't even be on this. So yeah, I think music, I know the people that get it, and some
Yeah.
people don't, and that's okay
Right.
too. For some people listen to it, other people hear it, and there's
Right.
a difference. There's a huge difference. So I love that. I love that so much. So, okay. So you and Gary meet. I get a text. Well, first I got, text telling me about this beautiful woman and so I won't give you that. Our text is our text. So I won't
Okay.
go into that. It's bro talk, uh, but no, I got to hear the story, as it played out. And, not a brag. We were in Hawaii on our 25th anniversary on the beach, and he said, I need you here. And he gave me this certain date. And I said, okay, well, what's going on? And, he told me he was going to get engaged. And so I'll let you pick it up there. Y'all started dating. Well, let's go to dating. Let's go there first, and then
Okay.
we'll tell
Okay.
the story about that. So
Okay.
you start dating. How was dating Gary Miracle for you and for him?
Well, I think for me, I was thinking about that this morning because I knew that we were probably going to touch on that, and figured we were going to go there. And so when I was thinking about how it happened and how it was happening for me, it was very organic. It was very, I mean, God, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't make it. I couldn't create it. I was not in a place both physically, emotionally, and mentally, to date as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
Obviously God had other plans. But where I was at, I was still recovering from COVID,
Hmm.
and I have something called long COVID.
Right.
I'm still recovering, but it essentially affected my heart, and um, I was bedridden for a good 5 months,
Mm.
and it also started to create all sorts of neurological issues for me. It was creating food allergies that I had never had before. I mean, like my body was going haywire. So physically, I didn't think it was even possible to date. I developed tachycardia. So like just getting up from my sofa to go to the kitchen would cause my heart rate to jump up to 120, 130, and
Wow.
feel like I had just run across a football field. It was very scary. So I'm just trying to recover from COVID. And I'm also recovering from being divorced, which anybody that's ever been divorced knows it's a journey.
Hmm.
It's a journey depending on the circumstances. So mine were very hard, and I was not sure if I could ever trust again.
Yeah.
So it was that as well. Um, and spiritually, I was in a funk
Hmm.
because all of the circumstances that were surrounding me, between my health, the loss of my marriage, and then going back to my health, I lost my job. Like there were so many losses. And
Hmm.
during that time, the Lord was like, the joy of the Lord is your strength. And I was like, no, it's not. Like, I'm
That's right.
just transparent. It was,
Yeah.
I sought him. He was with me. I can always, right? Hope is after the fact sometimes. And looking back, I can see where he was with me regardless. It also COVID created an anxiety that was crazy and nothing
Mhm.
I've ever experienced before. So mental health, like it was just a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't think I wasn't, I wasn't working out, doing my nails and getting ready to, mingle.
Yeah.
It just wasn't on my radar. So when I, when Gary came on the scene, and oh, sorry, I'm going to backtrack one more time too.
Oh, you're
And
good.
I wasn't prepared to bring my children around anybody. I am a fierce mama bear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Hmm.
I've worked in the foster care system. I have abuse in my own childhood. So you might want to call me a helicopter, maybe a little.
That's fine. Yeah.
So I didn't think I would ever feel safe enough to bring a man around my children, knowing the statistics and knowing, the things and seeing the things that I've seen. Again, a lot of fear. I just had a
Yeah.
lot of fear. But so when Gary came on the scene, it was jarring a little bit. It wasn't expected, but obviously anybody that knows Gary's story, um, there was this level that because of everything that I was going through, I was very authentically myself. There was no forcing it. And the way that he pursued me was, this is going to be an oxymoron. It was like fierce, but gentle,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Um, it did none of the stuff that when he was trying to date me phased him. I was like, oh, you can't take me out to eat. I can't leave my house. I'm not letting you come over because,
Hmm.
I have my convictions, so I'm like, I'm not letting some guy just come over to my house, even though, the no arms and no legs thing, you think I would feel safe.
Right. Yeah.
But even
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
not, was not a factor for me. So um, he pursued me in such a way that made me feel very safe.
Hmm.
And none of my stuff, anything I threw at him, I was like, how can we date? Like, I just have all these circumstances. How can we even do this? Um, he always had a solution. Gary is a
Hmm.
problem solver.
Absolutely. 100%.
I'm
Yep.
like, I'm like, what are we gonna do? He's like, I don't know. We'll hire a nurse. I'm like, we'll just lay in bed together all day. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Figure it out, Jenna,
All the
you know.
kids running around.
I mean, and he tried. I mean, he did ask me on real dates. Like he asked me to go to really cool concerts and comedy clubs. And every time he'd ask me to go somewhere, I'm like, I literally couldn't, even though I
Mm,
wanted to, I couldn't. Um, but in Gary's uh, problem solving ways, he one night said to me, can you help me get my medicine?
mm,
You know, I have no hands. So when I go through the drive through, um, you know, I need somebody to get my medicine for me. And I was like, I can do that. I can take a 10-minute road up to the CVS. I can do this.
yeah.
I think I can handle that. And I think for me, I knew in that car ride, sorry, I'm emotional. I knew in that car ride that I found someone special and
Mm,
that I felt really safe with him. And I don't know if I necessarily had the thought like I knew he was going to be the one or whatever, but there was something that I had never experienced before around the man that I was experiencing with him in that moment, and I was almost childlike and free, and he had me laughing. I mean, anybody that spends 5 with him,
yeah,
he's a funny guy,
he
but I'm
is.
a tough crowd. I am not like Gary. I'm a little bit more serious. I'm a little more stoic. I'm a little
Mm.
more like, let's talk about, you know, the meaning of life, you know, where Gary's like, tell a joke, you know.
Lighten
We're
up.
very different that way.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting how everybody's familiar with Gary's story, and we'll talk about his book in a minute. But
Yeah.
everybody's, or at least should be, or has probably heard about it, or is maybe becoming familiar with it right now. But his story it's big enough as it is, and it was big enough as it was before changes happened for his life too, and his marriage. And unfortunately, I was right there, you know, with him in that. And so it's almost like, and I know he talks a lot about Job. Um,
Yes.
and so I think what I'm trying to say is it had to be scary, and yet it's so uh, beautiful that you two could take all the issues that you've been through. You've mentioned several. A lot, everybody's familiar with Gary's, right? You take all that and you put that together on paper, and that's not one that many people would sign off on and say, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, or like that sounds like that'll work, and yet here you are.
Right.
And we haven't even talked about the kids yet.
Right.
Right, we
Yeah.
haven't even talked about there's a lot of other factors that you haven't shared, and a lot of people don't know, and I probably don't know, but you put all that stuff together, and like I said, a lot of people probably would say, yeah, that's never going to work out, and yet that's the truest love story of most people's love story, is when they don't think it'll work out,
Yeah.
somehow, especially when God's in the middle of it. And that's what I know about you all, is that God has been in the middle of this from the beginning for things and stories like you've shared, and Gary has shared as well. So, so fast forward, I get this, I get this text that says, I need you here. And gives me a date when I'm supposed to be there. I'm like, all right, cool. So I literally leave the beach and run up to the hotel room, and that's what happened. I mean, Gary says jump. I said, hey, so I saw how high, so I'm up there. I'm looking at flights. I'm texting my wife down on the beach and saying, hey, I think I can get
Yeah.
this one. Anyway, so that was our side of the story. But I was, so what's going on? Well, he said, I'm going to get engaged. And I said, well, that's awesome. I'm honored that I get to, you want me to be there for that. And so we talked about a lot of other things and ideas. And then by the time we got back from Hawaii, I'll let you pick it up from there. I didn't need to come anymore to
No,
the
yeah, no,
engagement.
yeah. I'm back there. I remember we had very grand plans for our engagement. And so I know that you were part of that. You were part of that planning. You know, he wanted to have like an engagement slash eloping wedding,
All at the
and
same time.
it was really big, and it was going to be big and wonderful. Um, and there were a lot of moving parts. And again, I would have loved that whole thing. That would have been very wonderful and exciting. I cared about having a wedding dress And that was just another God story about me getting a wedding dress, the way that I got it and how I got it. So I had that. So like I was good. Whatever he wanted to do, because obviously we had talked about marriage. He was sure I was going to say yes, you know. So
You love his confidence.
spoiler, he knew I was going to say yes. But just it didn't work out that way. It didn't work out that way, but it worked out the way that I would have maybe preferred it. I'm a little bit more um, private, or I'm not as out there, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't like Gary has these amazing plans, and he's a visionary and he can think of things. But the way that he proposed was perfect for me, and just in the privacy of our own home. I wish so bad. It was funny. I was just watching the video because you posted it,
That's right.
and
Sorry.
I was looking, no, I love it. I love it. I'm a girl. I swoon at my own love story, right? So I
Yeah.
was looking at it and thinking, oh, I wish I could hear what he was saying, because I'm a words person. That's my love language, words. And so he said all the right things. I mean, again, he already knew I was going to say yes. But again, our song, like, right?
Yeah.
Because music is important.
That's right.
And we had our song playing, and um, yeah, it was a wonderful proposal.
It was. And
Yeah.
so by the time I got down there, I kept my ticket and I did come on the
Yes, you
original
did.
date.
You
And so
did.
when I came on the original date, we were helping you move. And
Oh,
and so just so people have an idea, when I arrived at the front door, um, there was a lot of noise. First of all,
yes.
there was a lot of noise, and I opened the door, and there was a small child in one of those pushing wheelchairs, and then there was another child on rollerblades pushing that wheelchair.
Yeah.
Greeted me at the front door like, "Hey, come on in."
Yeah.
And it was insanity and chaos. And so all that, I just got to be there right at the beginning when you were putting this all together, putting
Cool.
two families together. So how have you managed? Because I have seen things online, like you've posted things, and
Yeah.
there's a lot happening, but you all have kind of, I mean, again, I was seeing the very beginning of,
Yeah.
hey, this is fun. It was like a big sleepover.
It was.
And that was going to wear off eventually, and they're going to be
It
brothers and
does. Yeah,
sisters
it
and all
does.
those things, right?
Like
So,
anything new, exciting, and
yeah,
then it's not new anymore. And
yeah,
then
it
it's
wasn't
like,
going to be an overnighter at church anymore. It was going to be, okay, now we actually have to get down to life. And so, how have you managed
yeah,
all the schedules and children and
yeah.
things?
I think for me, again, God, first and foremost, always. But what he did for me in my life before Gary, I was a foster mom, and I ran a therapeutic teenage girls group home with an organization called Four Kids of South Florida. Shameless plug. They're amazing.
That's awesome.
Everything that they do. Um, and so this essentially feels very similar, a
Mm,
blending family. Sometimes it's actually even a little bit harder, um, blending a family. And we have been extremely fortunate because our kids did have pre-existing relationships prior
right.
to us getting together. So that transition was easier. It wasn't, not only here's a new stepmom, stepdad, because I already knew his sons, and my children already knew them. So we had a lot of those things already figured out. So for that part, we were very fortunate, and I think we still are very fortunate. It's almost like we have Gary's adopted daughter, Joanna,
Mm-hmm.
which again, there's that connection for me because I worked with teenagers, and that's my jam.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then all our kids, I always say we kind of have like three sets of twins, because everybody's in the same grade, same age, like a year off here and there. But
I was going to
uh,
say, can you, for anybody that doesn't know, can you run over?
yeah,
So Joanna's in college, right?
Joanna, freshman in college.
Freshman. And then
19.
let's run down from there.
Okay, we got Joanna, who's a freshman in college in 19. We have Asher, who is in seventh grade and is 12. And then Isabella, who is also 7th grade and 12. Then we have Walter, who is in 5th grade and is 10. And then we have Abigail, who is 10 and in 4th grade. And then we have Henry, who is 9 and in 3rd grade, and Joseph, who is 8 and in 3rd grade.
Has TLC approached you guys about doing a show yet?
I swear, I could say it all the time. I'm like, we could be a reality show.
Don't.
Oh,
Don't, because
no,
it never ends well
no,
for any of those shows.
I,
But I was just curious because it would be a
yeah,
great show. It would be a
no,
great
I know. I
watch.
have a hard time right now that my house is smart. I'm like, again, I like to be off the grid. Gary makes fun of me all the time. I didn't know how to use the calendar and the phone, like I'm still Facebook. I don't do Instagram. Like he makes fun of me. I eat dinner at 4. I'm in bed by 9. Like
Well, I love it. I have a very, very good friend and I've said it on other podcasts, so people have probably heard it before, but it was so great when he told me because my wife is very similar, very, very scheduled, very detail oriented. I am not. I'm the king of restless. So what he told me was that, Heather is the buoy and I'm the sail.
okay.
Without me, she's just going to kind of stay. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, but not maybe try new things, maybe not pull in different directions.
Yeah.
But without her,
Right.
I will just blow off into the wind. So there's a beauty that happens with the buoy and the sail. And it sounds like, again, God had all this stuff in line with both of you. And that's, I think, what he's found in this relationship for you two as well, is the buoy and the sail, because Gary is, brilliant and runs a lot of different things. And there's a million things constantly, his phone's going off and opportunities and challenges and all those things. And so he needed that buoy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But interestingly enough, I always say Gary will tell you this about me. My life is a combination, I say, of contradictions and oxymorons sometimes, though, too. Because he is those things. But the one thing that Gary is, though, that I am not, is incredibly steady.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
I'm very emotional, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm very. I wake up one way and I go to bed one way sometimes. Depends on the day. But Gary is he's typically constant and steady, and so he studies me, for sure. So, but I definitely am more. I am the predictable one for sure.
Yeah.
As far as scheduling and when I'm going to go to bed and what I'm going to eat and when I'm going to pick up the kids and all that. Yeah, I am that one.
It's beautiful how this has all come together, and I'm so happy for you guys. And I can see the joy in your face. Haven't been there. I'm gonna come back soon. Gonna get down there soon. But I can just see the joy for both of you, and that's just awesome. I love that. Because it is Miracle TV. I think that I told them I'm going to rename my podcast Miracle TV. MTV is already taken though. So,
I'm sorry.
MTV's already taken though, so
right.
I can't use it.
Well, is it Miracle TV or is it Gary Miracle?
Well,
Gary
I was
Miracle.
going to say, no, I was going to say, I was actually going to give a shout out to the rest of the family. So I love the Miracle family beyond Gary as well. They have accepted me, loved me, and I could not love them more. They've really just been so welcoming.
The way that I describe his family is that they have a heart of adoption. And that goes beyond children. Like I have felt adopted by them the moment that I met them. And I watched them do that it's not just because I'm the girl that Gary fell in love with. Like they genuinely, they just include you. They're wonderful.
Yeah.
They're wonderful. I love them.
They really are. I love them as well. So I wanted to make sure we gave them a shout out.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we took some time. I really wanted to take time so people got to know you. We're going to talk about Gary's book now, but I wanted people to know you because your courage and strength and fight and when I say fight, I mean, you've listed just a few of the challenges that a lot of people probably don't even know others. I wanted people to know you and that it takes that kind of courage and strength, to make this work for both of you. And it's amazing. So I really want people to know you, and I hope they've had a chance to do that.
Thank
So
you.
we are in life now. Is there a book or something coming out next week? I don't
There
know.
is.
I think I heard about it.
Yeah,
Is
there's this little thing.
this little thing. So talk to us about the book, because did you have a part in the book?
I did. At the very end, you get to hear our story and how we got together and my perspective um, on this big, very big story, that a lot of the times um, it wasn't easy walking into, again, there were definitely days, and there's been days where I'm like, how do I fit, and you know, what do you want me to do in this story, God? Like, how do I fit into the story? And I do say this in the book, when I was wrestling with that, because yes, it's been amazing. Yes, there's been joy, but there's also been a lot of hard,
Yeah.
If you walk into anybody's house behind closed doors, it's a lot of hard.
Right.
But when I was trying to figure that part out, and I was in, I think it's First Peter 4:11, where it's talking about your giftings. And this particular area of scripture, it only talks about the two gifts. It says, I'm paraphrasing this. It's like, if you have the gift of speaking, do it to the glory of God, like bring
Right.
God glory in your speaking. And if you have the gift of serving others, serve as if you're, doing it unto the Lord, and, bringing glory to God, and all the strength that he gives you, so I felt like this was the epitome of Gary and I as a couple, as a ministry, as what, God was calling me to, in that. And so it's been, as far as the book coming out, and as far as, hearing the story and being a part, I feel like this little teeny part. I know it's bigger than that, but we're talking about something that happened before me.
Mm-hmm.
It's his story.
Yeah.
It's his story, and it's an incredible one. But it's also, like I said, how do I fit, and how do we fit, and what is God doing now with this part? And he says all that in the book,
Yeah.
which is beautiful. He shares not more than just what it means to overcome, and more than what it means, um, the gift of grace. But I mean, my husband teaches me that
Yeah.
daily too.
Yeah.
I always say, I am your audience.
Yeah.
I'm your audience. I'm your, he talks a lot about the struggles that we can't see. And, my husband's struggles are very, very
Visible.
visible. My struggles are very invisible. And ironically, I just had this conversation with another woman at church who was very bold and transparent in giving her testimony. I was so thankful for it, because when you saw her, she looked beautiful and done up, and like she's got it all together. Like, you would never know her invisible struggles. And I laughed. I made this comment. I'm like, when I'm going through the fire, I feel like I take a little bit longer on my hair and makeup, like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
I don't from the outside necessarily look like I am suffering. Even when I sing on stage, a lot of times there people are like, you look so comfortable up there, and you're doing exactly what you need. And inside, I'm fighting
Right.
anxiety. I'm fighting my thinking about myself and trying to get me out of the way so I can bring glory to God and just give him my gift. But again, you wouldn't know. People look at me and they think, oh, you're so confident and you're so got it all together. You look at me and you say, I think you're strong, but I go,
Yeah.
again, at night, the invisible struggles are there, and the trauma is there, and all the things that God is refining in me is there. But that's the beautiful part about this book and what Gary's message is. I think if anybody could take away anything from reading it, it's that. I think it's very powerful, that God is using Gary outward struggles to help us expose our inward, and just be real about it. So we can
100%.
experience God's grace, and we can experience God's acceptance, and we can wrestle those things out with the Lord. So that part, I am the invisible struggle.
Well, not to quote a song and make Gary mad, but that it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me is one of my favorite. Right?
I
That's why it
have,
was a big song, is because I think most of us can say the same thing. Like, hi,
yeah.
it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. So anyway, I had to squeeze in a Taylor Swift
No,
just to make
I'm
Gary
glad.
mad.
That's great though, because it's, I think if we could all say that, we're
Yeah.
being introspective and we're
Yeah.
looking at ourselves,
Yeah.
and that's a good thing.
Right.
If we weren't doing that, that's a whole nother mental health issue, I think, if we aren't
Right.
actually looking and asking God, search me, oh God, and know my anxious thoughts, know what's in me, and
Mm-hmm.
reveal it to me, and He's faithful. He's
He
faithful
is.
to that.
Beautiful. So the book comes out on Tuesday. You can get
Yes.
it now. You can pre-order now. You can get it now. GaryMiracle.com is probably your best source
Yeah.
to go to, but you can get that at Amazon, your local bookstore. It's pretty going to be available everywhere. He's been having pre-orders. There's a street club that's been reviewing and reading the book. Everything that I've seen, the reviews are off the charts, and I wouldn't expect any less. So uh, the new book, No More Bad Days, that's what it's called, right? No More Bad Days,
Yeah.
comes out on Tuesday, GaryMiracle.com. Is there going to be a big tour? Are you guys like going around the world? And
We have some things lined up.
yeah,
We have things coming up that we're going to go and be able to share his story.
anything in Ohio?
No, actually. Do you know anybody? Let's do this. Come on.
I know a guy.
You know,
Yeah, no, it'd be great. It'd be great to have him back in town. I know when he was here last time, it was great, and to have you with him this time would be awesome. But I'm really excited for the book. I'm really thankful that you took time to do this. I know it wasn't in your comfort zone
no.
today, but your story is important because it's a part of Gary's story. And back to the book. I don't think this is the last book he's ever going to write. I think God is now,
No,
as you.
and yes, I agree with you. I think I tell him all the time, I'm like, what's book number 2 now? What does God want to use you to say to people now?
Mm-hmm. And I think it could be both of you. I think your story is what you shared a little bit of today will help others as well. And that could be the next book. And God has, what you just said, gifted all of us in some certain way. He's gifted Gary with the ability to speak.
Yeah.
And, and obviously you both have an powerful story. And I just see that transition and that continuing on for him now is the opportunity to reach people through books, speaking, and obviously the story of both of you will help a lot of people. And I know, I don't want to speak for you, but I have a feeling you would say if it helps one person,
Yes.
if it helps one person, and you all receive so many emails and texts and Facebook messages and all the DMs, everything else from
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
that has to be so, not from an egotistical space, but from okay, God, it was worth it. It was worth it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel like it's a sacred place. It's a privilege when we enter in, there's something so connecting in suffering. I mean, I always used to say my life verse is always, the comfort that God has comforted me with. It's my job to share that same comfort with others. And when people are seeing Gary's story, a lot of times you're right. Like we get emails and we get messages from people going through just awful, awful suffering and awful, awful trials. And then they see Gary, and Gary inspires them and helps them to go, you know what? If Gary can get out of bed today, I can get out of bed today, and God uses his story that way. But then also, a lot of times women will write in, and my husband has given me the platform to speak into the women that reach out to him. And nothing is wasted, in my life. If I could go down a bullet point, there's been so many things that have touched my life from um, just there's been a lot of abuse in my life, and there's been a lot of trauma in my life. And unfortunately, I can relate to a lot of things. However, uh, God has used those things and has redeemed a lot of those things. And that redemption is in the sharing with each other,
Mhm.
just sharing. Even again, I think I'm going to go in and bless somebody with, what God has done. And then they end up ministering to me and God using them. So we all need each other. We all need each other's story.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that Gary's story will also inspire other people to do that.
Well, both of you have inspired me, obviously. And he responded to an email. That's how he and I met. He
Right.
responded to an email. So he is probably more inundated now than he was at the time, but I know he gets a ton of emails. So I want to ask you that, and hopefully this comes out the right way. I know you all have guardrails in your marriage, but I do want a female audience listening to encourage. I want everybody listening to encourage and pray for you, both of you, because you're embarking now on this book thing. Now it's coming out Tuesday. It's big, and I know a lot of people were already praying for Gary, but they should also be praying for you. I have a feeling if there's anyone listening, a female that's listening, how should they contact you? Is it best to go through Gary, or
Yeah.
is that the best way is just to go through
I mean,
Gary's and then you guys can filter out which goes
yeah.
where? Okay.
Yeah. He does do that. So if anybody is reaching out to him, I say the only thing I a lot of times will respond. Mostly the only time that I don't respond is when another quadruple amputee reaches. I have nothing.
Yeah.
I don't feel adequate to to minister to that. But unfortunately, fortunately, there's a lot of things that I've walked through that I feel equipped. When those women reach out that are suffering, that I can hopefully offer some hope to.
Well, I hope you're flooded with encouragement as well. You know what I mean? Because you all deserve it, and we all need that encouragement, not just you know, uh, just
Yeah.
I don't know. I just encouragement goes a long way. So if someone's listening to this, Gary at GaryMiracle.com would probably be the
Yeah.
best email. Is that right?
Mhm.
Gary at
Yes.
GaryMiracle.com. Send an email. Encourage both Gary and Jenna. Just encourage them, love them, pray for them, pray for their children. Um, you
Thank
know,
you.
I pray for your children and your family as you guys just continue to move through this next phase of your life. And I am so blessed to have a seat somewhere in the arena to watch and
Well,
just watch you
we're
all
blessed
grow.
to have you too. We're blessed to have you too. And your friendship has meant a lot to Gary and to myself. And it's real and it's authentic. And like you said, it's just God. Like he
Yeah.
just brings us all together. And, it's really just to encourage and spur one another on, you know. So you do that for us too. So
Well,
thank
thank
you
you.
for the opportunity. And thank you. Yeah, we could always use those prayers. The enemy doesn't like what we're doing for sure.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's very real. It's a very real battle.
Well, absolutely. So I'm committed to praying for you all as always. But anyone listening, please do that as well. Last but not least, now that I know you like music, so are you making mixtapes still? And it's not the 90s anymore, so you can't.
Right, Michael, that's Apple Music now, right?
Oh,
That's
right, right.
like if I were to share my music with you, you wouldn't know. Like I'm everything. I'm
And I
everything.
would probably be able to tell you where I was with every one of the songs. I have a feeling, just
Yeah.
based on the very short conversation we've had.
Yeah.
It's just a useless thing that I have. So
I get it. I get it. That was a little peek into when me and Gary were first dating. He did that very well for me. If he sent me a song, I swooned. I was done. I was like, okay.
it's the
Take you.
best.
He used to send me the Bruno Mars song, I Think I'm Gonna Marry You.
Yeah,
And it wasn't very subliminal. It was very
that's
forward.
right. I was like, that's yeah, okay. No hidden meaning there. It's pretty straightforward, but that's scary. So
But it worked. But it worked. Like
it
it worked.
worked. It
Right?
worked. Yeah.
Here I am.
That's right. Here you are. Well, you
Yeah.
all have a wonderful weekend. Praying for the book launch. Very excited for the book launch. Again, available at Gary at GaryMiracle.com or emails Gary at GaryMiracle.com and the book available at GaryMiracle.com or wherever you get books.
Yes.
Comes out Tuesday.
Yes.
Pre-order today.
Thank you.
Jenna, thank you. Give Gary a big hug for me. I know he's in the other room. He's probably been ear to the door listening the whole time. So tell him I'll have this out as soon as possible, and hopefully I'll see y'all very soon.